College Counseling Preview Night for grade 10 students and parents. And the reason that we asked you students to sit with your parents is we are going to have them practice what we do at school, which is no technology. So students and parents, this is a no technology presentation. We are going to send you all the slides after we're done today. We have a recording of this program afterwards, and we're just going to ask for 1 hour that you sit back and you listen and hear what we're going to say. We will repeat all of this information in other forms throughout your college counseling journey. And so really tonight, we're just going to hope that you sit back and absorb some of what we're saying. I am Darnell Haywood, Director of College Counseling, and I'm joined here on stage with Carla Krukka and Jen Fitzpatrick, and we are your college counseling team. We have been in college admissions and college counseling for a very long time. We decided not to add up the hours to let you know that. We're seasoned professionals. We love this work. We have lots of connections in the college admissions world. We teach, we coach, and Ms. Fitzpatrick told me to let you know that her picture looks a lot better up there because she just got done coaching middle school lacrosse and came straight from practice like many of you. I think she looks great, but you know, we know what it's like to come after practice. So we are in this work because of kids. We love being a bridge between high school experience and the college experience. And tonight, we're going to share a lot of information with you. So what we're going to go over, we're going to follow this scripted agenda here. And we're going to dive right into topics for you to let you know a little bit about college admissions, the world, and how it works, and also let you know about our process at Columbus Academy. This is about the process that happens here. Notice I didn't say it's college placement or getting you into a particular college or university. This is not about bumper stickers or sweatshirts. This is about a journey of learning and discovery, and we're here to help you with all of that. We're going to give you lots of information, but we're also going to leaven it with a bit of fun and fluff, so we hope you'll laugh at some of our jokes along the way. Just to tell you a little bit about the architecture of our office, our college counseling office. 3 full-time college counselors, and our job is college counseling. We have school counselors here that help really with social emotional well-being for students, but our focus is primarily on college counseling. There is here a 36-to-1 ratio of students to counselors in every class. Most high schools, that number is 500 students to 1 counselor. So students, if we're telling you, take off that sweatshirt or hurry up and get to class, it's from a place of love. We are excited to have you all in college counseling and to get to know you as students. And we love the work we do and love our role in the school. Our office also has 2 full-time, wonderful, supportive members of our office. We have Mrs. Schmall, who you all may know is the face of college counseling, sits in the front of our office and was out greeting you this evening. She's a college counseling administrative assistant. And we also have Mrs. Conti in our office, who's the director of internships and testing and data, and happens to be a grade 10 parent who is here tonight joining us. We have that little circle of advisees. This is Ms. Fitzpatrick's advisee from, maybe about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And that is just to show you an illustration of how we center what we do here. So now I'm going to pass it along to Mrs. Krukka, who's going to tell you a little bit about the philosophy of college counseling.
Okay. So as Ms. Haywood said, we hope that you all will take away a lot of stuff from tonight, but one thing we want you to really take away is that our philosophy is that this revolves around the idea that there are multiple best fit colleges out there for you, and our goal is to help you find those colleges. We recognize that there are a lot of choices for students and families, and it's rooted in your values as a student, your values as a family, and it's about a place where you can go and thrive and be your absolute best self. This is a journey of discovery, and we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. For the student, but you students are in the driver's seat. You are the one in charge of this journey of discovery. It's not us discovering ourselves anymore, or your parents discovering the colleges that were the best fits for them. It's about you discovering what might be best for you. So you're in the driver's seat, but you have a lot of support passengers kind of helping guide you throughout this process. So don't forget that. We're here to help you. But we want you to remember that tonight is very general in the information. We're going to get into specifics kind of in a very measured way in multiple different capacities throughout your time in the upper school. So this is kind of your first little taste of it. One thing you'll hear me say, I think it's me mostly tonight, say this a lot, but there is no magic bullet and there is no formula and there are no lists of boxes to be checked and then bam, you're going to get into the college of your choice. It doesn't work that way. And we're going to talk with you a lot about what you can do and what is in your control this evening. But we want you to listen. We want you to be open-minded. We want you to have lots of questions in your mind throughout this process, and feel free as you go through this process to make sure all of those are getting answered. And I think it goes without saying that we all three of us believe we have the best jobs in this school, so we are really happy to be here with you tonight. The very first step in a happy college process is what we like to call guided self-reflection. And this is for you, the student, but parents, there are lots of things you can do to help in this particular part of the process. The urge is always to skip number one. You just want to go straight to all the other stuff. This is so, so important, and it probably, I think in our opinion, the most important step. You get out of step one, however, what you put into step one. So we're going to give you lots of tools to be able to kind of do this part of it very, very successfully. If you see up here, you see all the happy faces. This is final bell. And we want to remind you that there is lots of joy and happiness throughout this process, and how you choose to approach this as a family is really going to dictate the joy and happiness in this process. So many different themes kind of come up when we're working with students throughout the 2 years that we get to kind of really work with you on this process. Themes of resilience and discipline and compassion for yourselves and compassion for your classmates. They reveal themselves during classes that we get to have and during conversations that we hear each of the students having with one another. So getting comfortable with, there's a lot of ambiguity, getting comfortable with that, getting comfortable with not always having an answer. Sometimes you just aren't going to have one in this process. We're going to kind of help you into that space, because it is a space that can sometimes feel pretty unfamiliar. Tonight we're going to go over steps 1 and 2. Step 3 up there is something we're going to reserve for a later future meeting, so just kind of stay tuned on that one. Okay, so how can you do this guided self-reflection? What are some of the things that we kind of want you to be thinking about? There are lots of questions up here on this slide. We want parents to help students think about these things. Parents, you should be thinking, like, you just had conferences with your students, teachers. What are some of the themes that have come up over the conversations with their teachers? What are things you're kind of hearing consistently? Are those also things that you see at home and things that you are happy about when you look at your child and kind of what they might be presenting themselves as and in the school system and in the school building? We also want you to think about what excites your child and all of those conversations that you get to have on the car rides and what you have at the dinner table. What are they talking a lot about? Are they really jazzed about the capstone project in English that they're working on? Are they more interested in learning about where prom is going to be held? Both of those are totally fine and totally developmentally and age appropriate, but knowing your child and knowing what really gets them excited. We really want everyone to approach this process through a really strengths-based view. As adults, thank goodness, we are not judged by how weak our weaknesses are. We're really, really grateful for that. So we want to do the same for our students in this process. We want to think about what their strengths are. We want to help them find those strengths, and we want to help them kind of do and find activities that enhance those strengths. So thinking about, is there a new activity or club or sport I can join that really kind of plays into something I might be interested in? But students, we also want you to know that now is the time to kind of keep the foot on the gas, maybe push down on the gas a little bit harder in your classes, and thinking about areas where you can kind of say, all right, maybe this was a little bumpy, but now's the time to kind of keep going, because Ms. Fitz is going to talk with you a little bit later about, what that looks like overall in terms of your academic profile and what colleges are going to be looking at. So now's the time to start really keeping that foot on the gas there. Okay, so these students are lots of different things we're going to be doing in class with you. So junior year, you get to have us for a whole semester in class. We do all kinds of different activities, but these are some of the questions we're going to help you dig into. And you may already be thinking about some of these things, and maybe you're not, and both of those are totally fine. We have lots of formal quizzes and personality assessments for you to take, but this is where we start as a college counseling team here at Columbus Academy with you as a student, and this is where we want you to start as a family when you're thinking about these things. One of our favorite questions is, what kind of location do I want to be in? And everyone sits down in our office and say, I have to be in a big city. I just won't be able to be anywhere where there's not a big city with lots of buildings and hustle and bustle. And then we'll have to say questions like, well, are you okay waking up in the morning and never seeing a tree? How often do you find yourself going into downtown Columbus, and what are you doing when you go in downtown Columbus? These are all good questions to be thinking about, because maybe you don't need to be in the middle of a big city. Maybe you do. So these are sorts of the sort of things that we really want you to start thinking about if you're feeling ready to start thinking about the college process. Okay, now I'm going to pass it along to Ms. Fitz.
Well, I'm particularly excited because the class of 2027 is my advisory. Wave your hands, advisory. Yes, let's go. Okay, I made them sit up front and some didn't get the memo. So I wanted, if you have a notepad or you brought a pen and a pencil, this is one thing we want you to write down. One of the easy first things you can do is go and play around on Road Trip Nation. So if you have your pencil, not your phone, Road Trip Nation. This is a free website. There is lots of good information on here, because one of the questions that 15 and 16-year-olds find annoying, but they get asked a lot is, so what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? What do you think your major is going to be? They're 3 semesters into high school, and people are asking them to map out their entire lives. So sophomores, we're just here to tell you, you don't actually need to know that right now. And parents, you don't need to beat the drum about that either. We're going to get into that in the college counseling class. But in this exploratory phase, you can start to poke around, and you can ask adults. If they're asking you that question, what do you do? What's your job? Do you like it? Are you happy? Do you have a fulfilling life? Do you think that's a job that you'd recommend to somebody like me? Because those questions to a 15 and 16-year-old aren't really fair, but they're fair game for adults. But Road Trip Nation is one thing you can and should be playing around on. It's actually fabulous. Okay, that's a global view. Here at Columbus Academy, these are some things that you can and should be doing. So on the left, you see just some different clubs, our internship program that Ms. Conti runs, lots of different ways where you can be poking around and exploring careers and career-adjacent things. The other thing that we would encourage you to do is Google Columbus Academy Alumni Podcast, Alumni Career Podcast, and you're going to see one of the few good things to come out of COVID is when we couldn't host in-person alumni forums, we had the podcast going on, and so we recorded a lot of those. Today, there was an alumni forum on software engineering. Not very well attended. The weather was pretty nice, we get it. A lot of extra Donato's pizza. But when we have those alumni career forums, you should try to attend some of those and just learn about what some Academy alums are doing. Okay, so as we move from self-reflection into college research, at this very early stage as sophomores, we're not going to turn you loose with college guidebooks and get, really down the rabbit hole of the college search process. But if you're thinking, I'd like to find a very small list of schools that kind of fit some of my criteria, and you see them listed up here. The College Board College Search website is a free tool that anybody can use, and you can give it some criteria, and it will narrow the list down for you. This is great for early lists, and we're not doing a full-blown college search right now because you don't have an SAT or an ACT score. Your GPA is based on 3 semesters, not 6, so this is very preliminary. The College Board College Search, we want you to think about this like eHarmony for adults. This is the child version of that, but you don't get a list of people you're going to date, just colleges. Okay, so let's show you a real live view of this. So this starts with 4,441 schools, but as soon as I give it some criteria, like I want a 4-year school, I want public and private, Narrows it down to 2,000 right away. Location, I'm thinking maybe somewhere in the Midwest, so I'm going to enter those states. I really wish I had my glasses. I think I got it. Adjacent states, and then I'm going to add in North Carolina because, I love the beach. Trying to perk up my tan a little bit. North Carolina. Okay, we're going to put in some majors. That's going to narrow it down a little bit more. Economics, I'm thinking I might want to study business. I'm going to check that box. Watch the numbers shrinking. We started out at 4,000, it's at 265. Campus life, I think I want to go to a smaller school. I'm going to check that box. I'm going to check off the setting. I don't think I want a city. I heard what Ms. Crooker said. I want to see trees. Women's basketball. If you've seen my dribbling skills, you know this is fictitious. I want to be a radio DJ. My daughter would disagree. Write for the student newspaper. Okay. And I think we put in maybe I'm at 80 colleges. That seems maybe too few. I'm going to add a couple of majors. Maybe admission selectivity. I don't want less selective. I don't want most selective. Something in the middle. You see the numbers are shrinking. Now I'm down to 65 colleges. And you can scroll through and see what these schools are. So this took a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and I've gone from 4,000 colleges to 65. So you could continue to play around with this, put in other majors. I'm going to move on. So if you find a school on that list, you can click into it. I'm clicking in right now to Spelman. Spelman is an HBCU, a historically black college university, and all-women's college in Atlanta. I've clicked on the admissions tab just so I can get some more information about it. Here's Spelman. Here's another one. This is Northwestern. I'm a sophomore. I don't know much. I'm thinking, oh, I love Chicago. Evanston's really nice, but boy, oh boy, that seems pretty selective at 7%. I'm going to ask my college counselor about other colleges in Chicago, maybe. Okay, so this is College Board, College Search, very blunt tool, and I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Haywood, who's going to tell you a little bit more about some other tools we like.
Great, so for those of you who just walked in a little later, just remember these are tools we're showing you if you want to get an early start on this. This is not something that you all need to go home and do over spring break. We're walking you through some of the ways that we will help you in your junior year, but we know some people are rearing to get started, so we wanted to show you some of these tools and tips. Okay, so Mrs. Fitzpatrick showed you some of the information about how to do preliminary searches on college, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how to do preliminary research on college admissions and particularly college admissions selectivity. And parents, this can be something that you all might be really interested in. You might be thinking of a particular college or university, and you might say, oh, well, I've heard that school's great, but you might want to know a little bit about it and about how their admissions process works before you actually dive in and say, this should be a school on my kid's list. And lists are not made until the junior year. And what happens is that colleges and universities all have something called the Common Data Set. This is data specific to colleges and universities. So colleges have offices of institutional research, and together they compile university information in a standardized format, and that format includes admissions data. This is easily something that you can search on Google for. You can look up common data set information about Denison, and it will come up. And what we've said over time is the data doesn't lie. It's just data. It just tells you information about the school. So I'm going to walk you through a way that we might use this, and we're going to start with a little skit. Try and make it fun. Okay, so I'm going to set the stage for you. I'm Mrs. Haywood. I'm a college counselor at Columbus Academy. I am going to be advising junior Jenny Fitz. Jenny Fitz is going to come on stage, and we're going to get started. Well, hello, Jenny. Welcome to your junior appointment.
Hey, what's up?
Jenny, first of all, I need to say you're out of dress code, so I'm going to write
Mr.
you
Thompson
up.
said I could wear it, special permission.
I'm going to send a note to Mr. Thompson right now. But you are telling me something. It's so great to see you.
I'm really excited for my first meeting. My older friends have told me a lot about you. They say you have great ideas, but I just want to stop you before you get started and let you know I'm going to make your job really easy. I already know I want to go to California. I'm very into surfing. You know I like the sun. Look at my skin. Don't tell my dermatologist. And I've got an aunt that lives there, and I've found the perfect school. My dad already bought me a T-shirt.
Oh, Jenny, I just love your enthusiasm.
I'm only going to apply to one school. I'm
You know,
psyched.
This is really, really great. And I'm wondering if you remember a little bit back to that special college counseling grade 10 preview night that everybody loved so much when we talked about the
Oh,
common
I was eating my
data set.
Cheez-Its. I was eating my Cheez-Its.
Okay, so let's dig right into the common data set, Jenny. Oh, Jenny.
Ooh, buzzkill.
Jenny, okay, so this is the common data set. I searched it for Stanford. Oh, Jenny, tell me a little bit about what you see up there.
Well, it doesn't look like I'm going to be surfing in Stanford. 4% is kind of grim.
Yes, Jenny, that means of 100 kids that apply, 96 are not offered admission. I know it's your top choice, but
I could be one of the 4.
Jenny, again, your enthusiasm. Let's see, what are some of your strengths, Jenny?
Well, I'm going to really demonstrate my interest. I heard that's a big deal, so
Yeah.
I'm going to write them often. I'm going to visit campus like once a month, and they are going to know that I love them.
Good, Jenny, and I know that's something that you really value. Let's dig a little bit more into the Stanford data and see what they value. Jenny, ooh,
This is grim.
dear, you see what I'm seeing? What
They
do you
don't care how interested I am,
Yeah, look at this. Stanford doesn't care at all.
or my sparkling personality when I interview. They don't really care about
I know,
that. This is bumming me
Jenny.
out.
Okay, Jenny, but I have some other ideas.
Okay,
for you.
good.
This is just the beginning. Have you heard of Pepperdine?
No, but I can't wait for you to tell me all about it.
Yeah, it's in Malibu.
Oh, the surfing is awesome there.
Okay, good. Let's go into the data about Pepperdine.
That is way better than 4%.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm feeling better
good,
about this
Jenny.
one.
Yeah, we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Admit rate 49% there, and also let's see some of some of the things that might play in your favor here. Jenny, I know you're really involved in
Community service,
community
religious life,
service. Yeah,
Mhm.
extracurricular activities are big.
lacrosse,
Lacrosse,
yeah.
and also I think you're involved in your church community.
very much.
Okay, good. Let's go see what they value here at Pepperdine.
Ooh,
Look at
This
that.
looks good.
Yeah, what do you see there?
This is getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, look, your character, your personal qualities, a little
Volunteer work, really important.
bit of religious affiliation, all those things.
Gosh, you're really good at this.
Okay, Jenny, well, I
Do you have any other ideas?
I have some more ideas for you. Let's keep going. California seems like
Yeah,
your
definitely California, as far away from Ohio as possible.
Yeah.
My
yeah,
parents are really annoying.
And I know you said you might be interested in lacrosse. I know that you're really involved in music. Maybe if you want to see a smaller school, you might go see Harvey Mudd.
I'm into it. It looks
Yeah.
like they really need women.
Yeah, and Jenny, also, I know you're interested in Northern California and Southern California, and what I'm going to recommend for you, which is what I recommend for all students, is that you see some schools that are large, some schools that are small, some schools that have, sort of a higher admit rate, and some that are kind of medium admit rate.
I also have a wetsuit, so San Francisco and Santa Clara are totally
that's,
fine.
That's great. That's great. Well, Jenny, I'm so glad. I'll talk with your parents after this, and we'll figure out. A
Make
trip.
sure you tell them California.
I got you, Jenny. I got you,
Okay.
Jenny. Okay. All right.
Billy?
Good job, Jenny.
Where's Billy? I'm looking for Billy. How'd I do? Making the advisory. call. Okay.
Okay, looking for a role in the spring musical, but we need her in college counseling. Okay, next, we're going to pass this back on to Ms. Krucka, who's going to explain to you a little bit more about how admissions works.
Okay, that is a wildly tough act to follow, and if you know me, you know that they don't ask me to do those things because I'd be remarkably awful at it. Okay, so I'm here to talk with you about the college admissions process from the standpoint of someone who works in the college admissions offices. So we want you to remember that they're as romanticized and lovely as Jenny was making this process. I'm here to tell you that it's a business. It just is, and that's how it works, and that's kind of, you're going to see a lot of things if you have ever worked in a marketing field, parents, that this is exactly the same kind of thing. So we showed you some of the data. We showed you what a common data set looks like. Here's how schools use that information. Here's what they're doing with all of your information when you reach out to a college or you go to visit. You kind of work your way through what's called the admissions funnel. And day one of any college admissions officer's career, they're going to show you this. And essentially, it just takes their total pool of prospective students and narrows it down to students who, at the end of the day, matriculate and then kind of graduate from their university. So we want to show you what some of these words mean. So students, if you are like Jenny and you go and visit Stanford, well, we're going to assume she went to visit Stanford. Dad visited Stanford, but she's going to go visit lots of other schools in California. She's going to go on a tour. They're going to sign her up. She's going to be on their mailing list. She's going to get lots of information in the mail and emails. Same thing is going to happen for you students. You're going to see that pretty soon coming in the mail. That makes you an inquiry. When you are an inquiry at a school and you choose to ultimately submit an application, you become an applicant to that institution. That's your choice. You get to have control over that process. The next step of this process is really the one and only part of the process that colleges have control over, and that's who they choose to admit. So those then become admitted students. And then those students who choose to attend that university, who've been offered admission, become enrolled students. And then at the very end, of course, students who finish their 4 years and are successful students on that college campus. We want to kind of show you this to educate you on things like admit rate, so the percentage of students they offer admission to out of the pool of applicants that they have, and yield rate, the percentage of students who say, yes, I will come to your university out of the students they offered admission to. So those are some of the things you're going to hear us talk about over the next few years in all of these presentations. But working through this funnel, how do schools kind of take their one part of this, which is the application process, like who are they going to offer admission to, how are they choosing those students, and what does that actually look like? A lot has changed probably from when you parents have gone through this process yourselves, and believe it or not, even if you've had students who graduated only a few years ago from Columbus Academy, the process rapidly is changing. So just to give you kind of an idea of what some of these schools are looking for, it's a lot less about a formula. In fact, there really isn't a formula. Schools are using what they're calling institutional priorities in order to make decisions on applications. So what do we value as a school? What do we need? And how can we fill those needs with the students who have applied this year? So as an example from previous slides, including our Stanford and Pepperdine examples, both of those schools do not at all consider demonstrated interest. It's wonderful that you like them. They just don't care in the application process, right? They want you to like them. That's great, but they're not looking at that at all when they're actually making decisions on applications. But they do consider things like first-generation students. You can kind of look at that list and see all of the other things that they are looking for. Both schools are going to, really look at volunteer work and kind of commitment to community. Oberlin College is an example of another school that really looks at commitment to volunteerism and community. We looked at Pepperdine. That's a school that considers religious affiliation and commitment to those values. Notre Dame is another school. 80% of the students who are on their campus are Catholic. So those are the sorts of institutional priorities that by and large are completely out of your control as a student, and oftentimes you don't really know from year to year if any of these things change. Let's see, colleges are, I think the most important thing for you to take away is that colleges get to decide what they want on their campus, and they get to decide who they recruit. So as much as you might want to be like Jenny and be really excited about surfing at Stanford, it may not be that's going to make that perfect match for you. So that's what we talk about best fit colleges, and that's kind of one thing that we really want you to be open-minded about. Jenny was great about being open-minded about all of the other opportunities. She's going to pull out the wetsuit and go surfing in Northern California, which is perfect. So being really open-minded and thinking about all of the different opportunities that exist out there from all of these different colleges. One of the things that's really kind of driving institutional priorities, and they change so often from year to year, is the explosive growth in applications. And there's lots of reasons for this, but if you remember back to when you applied parents, you may have typed your application essay on a typewriter. You may have put your application in an envelope and mailed it with a stamp on it. This is very different these days. It's a couple clicks of a button, you can apply to a college. So that's one thing that's really kind of fueling this, this growth. Another thing is test optional. Another thing that there were definitely test optional schools out there, but a lot of them went test optional during COVID. Some of them are going back to being test required, but there are still some schools that are test optional. And oftentimes students will, self-select out of an applicant pool if they're looking at their test scores and saying, well, they may not fit this range, but if a school's test optional, that student might say, well, I'm definitely really excited about my academic performance in classes, and my GPA I feel is really great. Yeah, my test scores are a little bit lower than what their average is, but that's okay, I'll just apply test optional. So that's, again, kind of increasing the applicant pool. Okay, So this is just another slide to let you know that this is a trend that we are keeping our fingers on the pulse of. We know this is happening. We also want to remind you that there are 3,700 colleges out there, and the colleges we hear the most about there's about 100 of them. So again, it's about being open-minded and in kind of hearing numbers are up, and they are, but it's not an impossibility everywhere. We want you to kind of remember to keep your mind open, and there are so many wonderful best fit colleges out there. The landscape in college admissions is super chaotic. It's a little bit unpredictable. And so we want you to know that, yes, there are schools with very low admit rates that we all know about, but there are also really wonderful, amazing places out there that maybe you haven't yet heard of. And so being open-minded is really important to broaden your horizons in this process. We want to show you this slide not to scare you, but to think about if you ever watched the Saturday morning cartoons and it's the PSA, the more you know on NBC. Somebody nod, hopefully I can hear the music in my head. Anyway, this is what this is. This is just about knowing what's going on in the landscape. So I am a proud Buckeye. That's where I went to college, and I just kind of want to paint a little picture for you. If you applied to Ohio State in like 1989, 1990, they had about 17,500 applications that year. Okay, so that's how many they were working with. Today, we just received these numbers kind of hot off the presses. 88,000 applications for admissions this year. That is a 12% increase from last year. So they've quadrupled their numbers over those years, and they actually had a 12% increase in 1 year. I'm sure the national championship had nothing to do with that, but that's something that we have to keep in mind. All of these things are very fueled by that. This slide, I think, also gives it to you in a little bit of a different view. If you look over, you're going to see 1990, 2015, and today, so this past application cycle, and you're going to see the admit rate percentages, and you're going to see how rapidly they've changed at a lot of different places. So I'm going to stop with all of this kind of scary stuff, and I'm going to pass it along to Ms. Fitz.
I get the very exciting topic of financial aid. So kids, you can tune out for a couple of minutes, and parents, we're going to talk to you mostly. One of the things we will recommend in this sophomore year is to have the budget talk very early in your process. So if you've never said to your child, this is what we've saved for college, or this is what we think we can afford, now's the time to say that. We put that little ostrich at the bottom. You don't want to be that ostrich with your head in the sand saying, we just have no idea how much college is going to cost us. That absolutely is not true. There are lots of ways that you can find out what you're going to pay at a school. We're giving you some tools up here. You can use an expected family contribution calculator. We're giving you a website. You can try My Intuition. Kids, this is really exciting. You should tell your parents how much you love them and rub their back when they're doing this. Like, thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for paying for me to go to college. Or you can go onto a college's website and do a net price calculator. This is just going to give you a ballpark idea of what your family might be expected to pay for college. Colleges range from in-state $25,000 to buckle your seatbelts. There are schools that are approaching the $100,000 a year mark. And colleges, even in the same category, they will charge families different rates depending on their institutional philosophy of how they do financial aid. So we think it's important that you have this conversation. We're going to tell you about some programs we have where you can learn more about financial aid, but it's important to have that budget talk kind of early on, and now is the time. Okay, so this is kind of how financial aid works. It's a three-legged stool. If one leg of the stool is missing, the other two have to hold it up. What we hear a lot is, well, back in the day, I paid my own way through college, and you should do that too. You cannot pay your own way through college. It just is simply impossible right now. So Ms. Kruka told you the application numbers for Ohio State back in the late 80s. I'm going to tell you the tuition numbers. 1989, the tuition for Ohio State. Anybody want to take a guess? Raise your hand. How much? Ooh, not 15,000, 1,700. That's what the tuition was, 1,700 for the year. Room and board, add on another 3,000, right? So we're under $4,000. I'm sorry, under $5,000. If you, even with inflation, that's $11,000. Even with inflation, that's $11,000. Today's cost is $31,000. I don't know any kid who can work and make $31,000 and go to college full time. So you can't really pay your way through. The max limit for an undergraduate loan, because we hear this a lot, well, if Susie really wants to go there, she can just take it all out in loans. She can't. The maximum amount of loan that a student can take is $5,500. Adults can take loans, but the max that any kid can get is $5,500. Okay, the money talk is making me sweat. If you are a sophomore and you're thinking, I'm really excited, what's next for me? Well, we're giving you a lot to think about. The first two items on this screen are mandatory. So you're going to have a grade 10 academic planning conference. It's going to be with one of the 3 college counselors. You're not assigned to a college counselor yet. You're going to sign up. It's like Sign Up Genius, almost like Pick a Time for Conferences. We're telling you exactly when it's released, because if you have a busy family schedule, you should mark your calendar so that you get first choice in dates and time. You have to pick a time when you don't have class. So if you're thinking this is a really good way to get out of chemistry, think again. Number 2, we're taking a field trip. Your entire class is going to go on a field trip with us on May 19th. There are no classes that day. You come to school, we get on buses, and we're going to teach you how to visit a college campus. So those 2 things are mandatory. You'll be doing those. The other 3 are optional. We hope that you'll follow social media. We hope that you'll think about some of those self-reflection. In your grade 10 meeting, we're going to talk about what your summer plans might be. If you've never been on the internship website that has enrichment opportunities and things about CAPS, which are past, but maybe for next summer, you want to start to think about how you're using your summers. Okay, parents, your life is a little bit less exciting. Back to the budget. I'm beating a dead horse. So you got to talk about your budget. The Smart Check program that we have, tomorrow you're going to get an email follow-up from us. There will be a link. This is for parents. If you want to sign up, we partner with Smart Check. This is a free 1-hour webinar program. It's going to be in the evening of April 9th. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You're not on camera. You can be snacking on your popcorn and listening away. And then if you want to have a follow-up individual meeting, you can. This is about how you and your family might pay for college. Again, the grade 10 planning conferences, this is for students and parents. We do invite your advisors to come. If they're available to come, they will come. What we really want parents to think about is that what might seem urgent to you may not be urgent to your child. We want you to just take a deep breath. We want you to follow the roadmap. We have a well-worn roadmap for this. It's tried and tested. We've helped thousands of Academy students navigate this process. We think we're pretty good on it. We want you to focus on moments of joy. We don't want you to leave here. If you leave here today and you're like, okay, let's go, let's get that college tour going, let's get the full search going, let's take the SAT, then you've not been listening to us. We want you to take a deep breath. We will tell you exactly when to do things and how to do it, but these are just the things that are coming up right now for sophomore parents. Okay, and then for students, it's actually a really exciting year next year. We're just giving you a preview of coming attractions. What do they say about the junior year that I hate? It's a grind. Oh God, I hate the word grind. It's not a grind. We would prefer you call that joyfully busy. If you could change the narrative, class of 2027, my advisees, let's go. We would appreciate that. We think you have lots of opportunities. These are things you get to do, not have to do, so change the vocabulary around this. These are some of the things. You're very good at reading. I'm not going to read them to you, but we want to remind you that when the college visitors come to us in the high school, we have over 100 that come in the fall. This is what we hear a lot in November when we have our first college meetings. I had no idea when they were coming. I don't know anything about that. There are several ways. I'm going to email you every Sunday night. It's going to be on the social media. It's going to be on the screens throughout the high school. So if you come to us in November, we're going to assume that your reading skills got left behind in middle school. Please come to the college meetings. We purposely have your lounge outside of our office next year, so that if we've not seen you at a college meeting and it's October 15th, we'll just grab you by the ear and bring you on in. Okay, communication from school. Parents, these are the ways we're going to communicate with you. We're going to really encourage you to read the Viking Voice. We don't love to send lots of emails clearing up your box. There's a section for college counseling, so please go ahead and read that when we put things in there. Ms. Schmall and Ms. Conti have really helped us revolutionize how and when we communicate with parents. So in your My School app, there's a group for class of 2027, and there's a standardized testing group. So if you think, oh, I got an email about this, or there was information and you've lost it, just go into Blackbaud. It's all organized there. You can follow us on social media. That's not our preferred way of communication. We'll email you and we'll put stuff in the Viking Voice. Students, your job is to read your email. I know the 9 of you who are bad at this because you haven't joined the Google Classroom yet. There are only 9 of you. That's pretty good, but now we know who you are. So go home tonight, join the Google Classroom. It's mandatory, and that's where you will get information about your grade 10 academic planning meeting. We'll have information for you in there, and please, 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 you see the Nike swoosh, just do it. Just read your email. We don't want to harp about it. Ms. Haywood's going to talk to you about the very exciting topic of standardized testing.
Boy, they make this fun. Okay, so when you start thinking about next year, this is really something that you have to plan ahead for. Junior year is testing year. You all took the PSAT this year. Some of you will take AP exams this spring, but all of you will take the SAT and or the ACT in your junior year, and you will also take the PSAT, and you also may take AP exams. And I'm going to go through some of the definitions of some of those tests and tell you a little bit about them. But first, I'm going to start with a caveat. I said junior year is testing year. Sophomore year is not. So some of you may be thinking out there, boy, I want to get a jump start on this. Let me sign up for one of those tests. I want to let you know that some colleges, universities don't even accept testing, ACT, SAT testing from the sophomore year. They see it as unnecessary gamemanship. They think that you're using this like an extracurricular activity, taking it as much as you can, and that is not something you want to do. You want to just put this squarely in your junior year, and you all will all take this at different times. Parents, if you don't know much information about standardized testing and you want to learn more, there was an hour-long presentation that we hosted this winter, and this was co-hosted with our friends at Compass Prep. It was called Navigating a Shifting Testing Landscape. There's lots of information in here. So we have the recording linked here. You'll get the slides afterwards. Feel free to go in and watch that to get some of the nuances of standardized testing. So PSAT. This is a pre-SAT. Colleges and universities do not see this, do not use this in any way in their admissions process. It is in the junior year used as a test for national merit recognition programs. It's offered here at Columbus Academy and during a school day. Quick information here you can see, just so you can sort of ballpark how our students do and where you are in that. SAT and ACT. Basically, these tests are offered throughout the year on Saturdays during testing, and then we offer, it was previously just one SAT administration, and next year we're offering 2 SAT administrations during school days at Columbus Academy. We offered one in March. Just this week, the juniors ticket, we'll offer that test again, and we're going to offer an optional fall administration for students who might want to take this right around conference time. Just so you all know that there is prep involved with this, and we think every student should do some kind of test prep. You really don't want to go into these tests cold. You want to do this, but you want to do it at the right time. And a lot of that depends on the math level you're in, on where you are in the curriculum here. And we are going to give every student an individualized testing plan during your grade 10 academic conferences. So you all will hear, you heard a little bit about those. You'll get the information about signing that up. We will go through every child's folder, every one of your transcripts. We'll go through your testing in the past, and we'll tell you this is when we think you should take it based on your involvement in music or the arts or athletics. And we'll give you advice. Most students take these tests 2 or 3 times throughout the year, and we'll go over that for you. Our students at Columbus Academy do pretty well on these tests. It's a piece of data that's used in the admissions process, and not at some schools, but not at all schools, but at many schools. Just so you all know, recent headlines, there was a time when testing was a little bit more of a test optional environment. Just to let you know, today Ohio State announced that they will require tests for applications, all applications in the future. Not for this class now, but they're going to be looking at those in classes starting next fall. Students are going to have to submit scores. So just so you all know, we keep abreast of these changes in the testing landscape, and we will keep you informed of them, but just know all Academy students will take an SAT and or ACT, and probably multiple times. AP exams, what are they? When are they offered? AP exams are offered in May at Columbus Academy. They're curricular exams, and they're often offered at the end. They're all offered in the springtime, and it's often tied to honors level coursework. Students can self-report these exams to colleges and universities, but they're not required by colleges and universities. So we call this a real low-risk exam. If you do well on it, You get to celebrate it in your college application process. If you don't do all that well, you get to hold the score close to your heart. You don't have to put it on your application. By graduation, every student has the chance to take AP exams. That's the way our curriculum works. In the senior year, honors courses are available to all students. So by the time we get to graduation, our students have taken many of these exams. We have over 100 AP scholars almost every year. We have about 600 exams that were taken here last year, and we're trending towards that number this year. And we think that over time, we've seen the AP exams play more heavily into college admissions decisions. And what I've put up here for you is a little bit about grade inflation and why tests like these on a national level have become a little bit more important in the admissions process. And that's because, as you can look at the data and see, about 60% of grades that are given in high school are in the A ranges. This is from national data on that. And the more information you can give colleges and universities, the better that they can make their case. Okay, so if you're sitting here and thinking, oh, this is the worst topic I've ever heard about, I've been a terrible standardized test taker all my life, I am dreading this, we're gonna say, go in, take it, but also know that some schools do not require testing. And you can see a full list of the wonderful colleges and universities that are not gonna require it. But this is the decision that we'll make later on in the process for you all. Okay, now I'm gonna pass it on to Ms. Krucka, who's gonna tell you a little bit more. Oh yeah, okay, good. So one thing that I did forget to mention here about the ACT, I'm so glad you brought that up. The ACT is a little bit in a state of flux right now. They are moving to a digital administration. The SAT has moved fully to a digital administration, but ACT is started that process, and they're fully transitioning to that this summer. What we are hearing from colleges and universities is that this is a little bit of an unstable time in the testing. The little concern about some of the validity tests of the online exam, and so we are going to say, we're going to recommend that you hold off on taking the ACT until we get through the fall administrations, till we learn a little bit more about the results out there, about the ways that colleges are looking at these exams. And so we're going to keep going forward with the SAT here, and many of you will take the ACT, but a wait and see. Anything else? No, okay, good. Thanks for mentioning that. Great. Okay, now I'm passing on to Ms. Crooked.
So, we want you to remember, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned it at the very beginning, that this is an individual journey, and finding colleges that are the best fit for you is really what is most important. We know this can seem overwhelming. I can feel it in the room right now, especially with conversations like financial aid and testing, but getting into the college that, to college or to a college, that's just the beginning. We want you to remember that. There's so much more that happens afterward. It's not the story, it's just the start of the story. We've talked about the data and the trends and what we're seeing, but another trend that's really on our minds all the time is the mental health and happiness of the students in our high school. We know that for some, coping with pressure to succeed is definitely a real thing. We recognize this. We try to address this head on. We stay really on top of all the trends that are happening in college admissions. We do everything in this process in our office in a very measured, student-centered, age-appropriate way. I want you to understand that that's why we do things the way we do them when we do them. There is a link that you'll have these slides and you'll be able to watch this. It's an 8-minute video. It's really well worth your time to talk about the rising level of stress and anxiety that is happening, especially around and centered around the college process. As a reminder, you have 3 of us up here to work with you on this whole college process, but there is also a school counselor here in the upper school, Mrs. Dillon, and she stays, we communicate with her quite often, and she stays kind of in connection with what we're doing so that she can kind of help out as well. The mental health of you as our students is the most important thing. So we want to give you lots of ways to keep that in mind. For parents, This is something that we want to also give you, whether you read or you listen or you scroll, this is something we want you to stay on top of as well. It's really important. We want to give you resources. So there's lots of literature out there, but we really particularly like this book. This seems to be the one that is resonating this year with us, which is Never Enough if you haven't read it yet. If you are a podcast listener, Dr. Lisa D'Amour has an amazing podcast out there. If you're unfamiliar with her, she is a child psychologist. She is kind of the forefront expert on adolescent development and behavior, and she's quite wonderful. And we were lucky to have her 2 years ago speak with us on campus. But she has an amazing podcast. She also has a very active social media account that she gives lots of great tips on just raising teenagers and preteens in general. But then she also does dip her toe quite often into the college process. All right, Ms. Fitz, to kind of help us bring it home.
You guys are doing such a good job. 9 minutes to go and you're all still awake. Okay, so I'm going to get out my reading glasses because this one's important and I want to just give us some questions to think about. So parents, Ms. Crooked just talked about the balanced and measured approach to the college process. We're going to ask you to trust the process, and we want to just ask parents very, very sincerely to please stop asking kids about college. So we know that you think it's a polite question, like there's an older kid on your team and you say, oh, where are you going to college? Where are you applying? What's on your list? Where are you going to visit? These seem like well-intentioned questions. What a kid hears you saying is, oh, they're trying to guess what my GPA is or what my SAT scores are. We go to a college prep school. This is a hot topic. They stress enough about this already. That question that you're asking a 17-year-old kid, the equivalent is if you would ask your friend or neighbor, like, hey, you look really good. How much weight did you lose? You got a new job. What's your new salary? Those aren't polite questions, and we would never ask them to adults, but yet we will ask the most intrusive question to a teenager. So you can help to lower the stress level by just not asking kids about college. There are intentional questions up on the screen. Ask any of these, but the college list is one we're going to ask you to just, you will thank younger parents later when your kids are juniors and seniors. So these are just some of the lessons that we've learned. This is nothing scientific. This is just because we've been doing this a long time. If you are going to start visiting colleges, don't visit super selective colleges. Visit colleges that admit over 50% of their colleges. If you're doing this like you're driving to grandma's house for spring break and there's a college on the way, awesome. If you're on vacation, there's something there, super. Setting up the full-blown college visit in the sophomore year, not a great idea. You really can't speed up time. We know there's a sense of mystery and some of you really just want to jump in and dive in. We hope that we've given you some things to do in that step 1 and that step 2. We want to emphasize that there's a 14-month lifespan of this. If you start right now, your child will peak too early. They will, when we ask them to think about writing essays, they're like, oh, I'm so done with this. Like, I've been thinking about this since freshman year. We don't want them to peak that early. Parents, you have 2 years and 2 months. 2 years and 2 months, and that's it. And I'm telling you this because Darnell has 2 in college. I have 1 about to go to college. Carla has a 6th grader. We're not worried about her. 2 years and 2 months seems like a long time. It's really not. We were sitting in this theater very, very short time ago. We don't want you to think obsessively. We want you to think obsessively about their health and their well-being and their balance, and let us think obsessively about the college stuff. Anything else that, okay, you got to talk about the ACT. It was really awesome. Okay, other things we've learned. Ms. Haywood's going to talk to you about this, and then we're going to let you go. Don't skedaddle out of here. We have folders for sophomores, freshmen. We have a single piece of paper for you.
Yeah, great. So a few years ago, we sort of sat back and thought about what are some of the pressures on students at Columbus Academy. And we realized that it can be kind of too much of a good thing for some families here. They think they need more. But we want to let you know that by sending your child to Columbus Academy, you are paying for an independent college counselor. You are paying for us. And we do this, we love this, we get to know the kids really well. Out in the world, there are many schools where there is no college counselor. And it really makes sense for families to hire and to pay someone to do this work for them and to start early. But that's not here. And in fact, in our environment, if you hire somebody else, it robs your child of the opportunity to get to know us really well. It provides too many cooks in the kitchen, maybe too many bits of advice in this process, and can be really confusing and overwhelming for students. And so we want to think that we also want to let you know it seems like everything about this is a strategy. What do you do? How do you do to get in? And that's just not the way it works. It doesn't speed up time, it doesn't deliver results, and it robs your child of independence. We also want to let you know that when there's anxiety in something, there's often a lot of money to be made. And you will get lots of information about high-priced summer programs. Somebody will say, hey, I sent my child here, or there's this great program at Georgetown, and you've got to go this because you'll get a leg up. And the reality is most of those are money-making programs that are actually using the space at a particular college university and have no ties to the admissions office. So it becomes a big money grab. And we want you all to be sort of aware of what the predatory elements are out there surrounding this process. And if something feels to you like a little bit too good to be true, it probably is, and you can run it by us, and we'll help you with this. We'll talk more about where you should spend your time and your money, and we've listed some of those places below here that you can see. They're resources that you can use there. Okay, so lastly, sort of before we go, we want to show you this picture and let you all know that you will all be at the last bell moment in 2.5 years. And this is a really joyful time for us. And we've been doing this a long time, and students at Columbus Academy go to college and are really happy on that day. Lots of smiles out there. This preview night, a few things I want to tell you. No one has been assigned a college counselor yet. You all are each going to meet with a college counselor during the grade 10 conferences, but we actually assign you to a college counselor in November of the junior year. We also want to let you know that right now, if you have questions, we ask you to send them to the college counseling email address, and that phone number if you need to call with a question, to call the college counseling phone number. We are right now heavy in working with our juniors. Seniors are making decisions. We will spend our time with you, and when you get there, you want us to spend time with your child. Right now, if you have general information, we'll get back to you and we'll spend some time with you. One other thing I want to let you know, we have coaches, we have parents on the stage, we have some of you who know us personally. Please do not send us messages to our text, to our phones about college counseling. We answer our emails regularly. We are here for you all. We really pride ourselves on being there for all families, but we also have our personal lives and all of those other good things out there. Yeah, Ms. Fitz says you can text her about pickleball. Thank you all so much. You can grab your folders on the way out. Mrs. Schmall has them. How about a round of applause for our wonderful presenters?